G'day everyone, I'm Ross. Welcome to Life on the Hulls. I'm building a 40-foot liverboard composite foam core catamaran in here. It's a massive project, and if you've just joined my channel, there's plenty to catch up on. This week I'm going to be concentrating down in there, sneak peek, on some demolding mounts. I'm actually getting to the point where I need to demold this boat so I can really progress. There's a lot of thought going into this. There is a big boat here to be lifted out of this mold. It's also got to have the correct lifting mounts. It has to have a lot of thought put in. I've had interviews with the crane driver. I've had some fairly serious discussions over the last couple of weeks. Very exciting times as we head into late 2020 and a very unusual year all round. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and let's get straight into it. So last week I was all excited about getting in my engine modules. I got the flow coat done in the build, and pretty good result for a good hard week of work. A lot of sanding, a lot of prep went in before I'm actually installing these modules, but just about to put them in, and it dawned on me I still have to lift this boat out of the mould, and it's always been in the back of my mind, but not so much as it was when I went to install the module. So what I've done is I've cut out a panel on the module themselves, and now I'm going to install some PVC pipe on the chine, which is actually solid glass. Very important I get it on solid glass so that it actually lifts correctly, so that when the spreader bar of the crane comes in, it will be able to tie in and physically lift the hull out of the mould. There's no other way to get a hull out of the mould other than floating it up, but still you still have to lift it no matter what, and getting a strap underneath it near on impossible in this mould's case. So what I'm going to do, basically glue those on and do all of that prep work before I put the module on. I'll then put the module in and then restore the module. That's been my way of going forward more quickly than putting these in, getting the hull out of the mould. I simply cannot get it out of the mould until around mid to late December, when this yard goes very quiet, because there's going to be a lot of work here for a couple of days, moving stuff around and making sure I've got a lot of room to work here. Plenty of work to come. I'm going to try to do a bit of an animation of how I'm going to remove the boat from the mould to get it straight in my mind, and so that you guys know what the hell is going to be going on, because there's going to be a lot of movements of large items here over that period, and talking to the crane drivers as well. Let's talk about demolding. I've got to get a plan together to get this boat out of its mould. Now, I've already organised storage for the hull. I was going to try to keep it all here on site, but right now the hull's going to move across the road for a little while until I need it again. Did I say that? I need it again. But essentially there's a lifting point here that I will cut away from the actual modules themselves, and that'll give me the opportunity to put some mounts here, right where it says lift here, that I'll be able to physically lift this boat out with a crane. And you can see that the lifting points are two aft and two forward, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't screwed or mounted the modules up in the forward starboard stateroom and in the port stateroom as well, on the hull side outside edge. I'm actually wanting to lift this boat off a solid glass chine and not a foam core. So this is going to be the lifting point here, and I'm going to have to clean up a bit here. I sort of flow coated this in excited fashion, and now I'm going to have to sand it back, because I do need to engage this lifting point all the way down into the side of the hull here. What I'm going to use this PVC pipe to provide me with a sleeve, so it's going to be about this long, and then that'll be glassed, physically glassed to the boat with God knows how many laminates, probably about 20 layers. What do you reckon, John?
Probably more.
Probably a lot. And then I'll pass a steel pipe through the center of this with which to attach the crane straps to, which will then be centered up to a spreader bar. So there'll be 4 of these glassed into the side and onto the solid glass part of the chine here, and then continuing up to the foam. And then I'll probably put in on the bridge deck over here, I'll possibly put in a couple of extra mounts on the deck here that'll also be attached to that spreader bar. That'll give me a chance to take the tension off these once we get it under load. So I've got to think about demolding. This is really a critical point to get done. So I'm very glad we haven't glued the modules in yet, because I'm going to have to glass probably right down to here and probably up to here with multiple layers of tabbing holding this tube in place, and then pass a steel bar through that that'll then be picked up by the strap. I think that sounds like a plan, doesn't it, mate?
Well, we'll see if it doesn't rip the boat apart or not.
Yeah, we hope not. It's the pivotal moment in time. Okay, so I've got my lifting mount down there. I'm not convinced it's going to be enough. I think I need another one down here on a bridge deck around the same area so that I've got a backup. I think 2 lifting mounts on each side in each area is going to be more relevant. So I'm going to go over here and do this over here on the starboard side. Now I'll do exactly the same, but I think I'm going to come up with some sort of a rope glassed into the deck here as a backup so that once I can get tension on the spreader bar, I can then tension another couple on, because I think 8 points is a lot better than 4. I'm really worried about this section of the build, but you know, that's just the way it's going to be. You got to remember, I've got a fair amount of weight in here now, and I'll have to get rid of all this crap out of here just to make sure that I've got it as light as possible. Now I've got to make sure I've got to leave plenty of room for laminate down in there, so I've got to get this as far over to the side as I can so that the edge of the module is about here. Well, it's actually here, so I can probably come over even a bit further. Now what I'm trying to do is go over and under and back up. There's going to be a real loop. Ultimately, the first layer is the important one, or the most important one, and then I'm going to lap join, tabbing here, 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 until I get a substantial enough laminate that's going to basically protect this from delamination. And again, down in here, I'm going to lap it there, there. So I've got multiple points, probably in around about 20 to 30 mils each time. And then, you know, basically I'm relying on glue as well. So there's going to be a pretty substantial laminate going on here, all the way, so all the way in, under, over the top and around, and then there'll be unis. I'm going to use some unis as well, and then I might even increase some right up down the whole side here, all the way down, all the way as far as I can go, just to give me that extra hold, because I don't think I could have enough. So actually glassing in one piece like that and then just doing multiple layers is not really going to cut it, because the problem is all the surface tension is actually held, or the lifting tension and stresses are going to be held by that first piece of glass that's glassed down. So I'm better off in the first instance applying a number of small strips like so, which are going to give me, even smaller than these, going to give me additional bite on the second layer, and that gives me that initial hold, and then I can laminate them over and over and over and continually overlap as we go further, and possibly get wider as well, to make sure that I'm getting that, you know, maximum hold on the hull itself. I can't lift it from the center of the boat. I have to lift it from the outside here, because the center there really has no sufficient lifting points to lift it up, and I want to make sure that I grab it from the outside and lift it, and once I get a little bit of tension on it, I'll then hook it from the middle section there so that I can physically lift it out without bending, shaping and changing the shape of the hull, because although this is solid glass on here, it is going to have an element of flex, and we don't want it to flex too much, because that's going to cause restorative work once it's demolded. I want to get this out clean once. I don't have a bulkhead back here to pick it up from. Getting to quite like it down here. Not. I do like it down here. It's nice and cozy. Righto, so I'm going to basically start laminating this layer upon layer upon layer. I'm going to add in some woven rovings. Well, it's only taking, you don't want to be putting a lot in there, because you do end up with a lot of air in between woven roving. It's not really a finished product, but it's good for strength. So that's why it will be used in a lot of yacht hulls. older style yacht hulls. The newer ones tend to be all the stitch fabric because we're trying to take weight out. Years ago they used to just whack in as much woven roving as they could wherever they needed extra strength, but it is an extremely strong piece of fabric. But once it's catalysed, I'm going to get into it. Okay, so I'm not supremely confident in my lifting mounts here, and the other day I'm sitting, it's Friday Arvo, and I'm here and John arrives and starts having a bit of a rant, as he usually does late in the week when he's a bit tired. And our friend Alan Niebauer, who owns the Seawind 1260 down in the river down the road here, walks in to have a check out my progress, and we were discussing demolding points, and he gave me a story about a gusset that was fitted to a stanchion on one of his boats, and it actually saved his rigging. Or it broke when he was told to put a gusset on, and he said to me, gussets save lives. And that's a pretty important point, because if you put a gusset in certain things, it will actually protect and save a structure. And so I've come up with this. This gusset will be a plywood gusset, and I can fit it over the top of here, tab it to the mount, tab it to the bottom here, and tab it in here, and then when the crane lifts, I've got a really strong point of contact to this wall here. I am worried that I've only got a couple of inches and a very odd angle down in here, and I'll just show you the angle that's down in there, although it is overlapped and joined and has an incredible sort of bite on this hull, and I've ensured by going crossways and the like to get that hold. I really do think something like this is going to probably be the saviour of this mount system. So the good thing is I can leave this on here and cut it off once the boat's demolded, and just cut the whole thing out. And really, it's the sort of thing that will save a boat, and I can actually strap it right down to here and over the top. I can do some major tabbing on that to make sure that that's secure. So I'm going to make up 4 of those, one for each mount, and still have my additional ones on the bridge deck as well. But I think that's a winner. And thanks to Al for suggesting it. You've just given me another couple of days work, mate. So I've made these plywood gussets. Now I'm going to fillet these in, and then I'm going to tab them extensively to the wall here. Call me paranoid or what, but I think you can never have enough protection when you're going to whack a crane onto your love and pride and joy. But anyway, I'll fillet this in now, put it in place, and we'll get it tabbed straight away, and then I can basically move on to putting the ones up the front. It's all part of the process that I'm going through for demolding. It's doing my head in, but anyway, let's get to it. had my doubts as to whether those tubes were going to work. I think that gusset is the answer. Look, there's going to be quite a lot of force on this, but ultimately what's sitting in the hull here, once all these modules are in, is probably at around 3.5 tons. It's actually not a lot of weight for a crane. I've just got to make sure that I get enough enough engineering in it to sustain a lift for about 10 minutes, and that's all I'm after, really. Not really going to need it any longer than that, because once it's out, it never needs to be lifted like that again. It'll be lifted with slings around the outside. So I'm going to hope that they're good enough, taking Al's advice, and I'm going to move on. And that's been a bit of a bugger of an afternoon doing those gussets. That was pretty hard work. There'd probably be 10 to 12 layers of quads and unis, and I've even got some woven rovings in there as well, spread out around about 1.5 foot around those gussets, just to tab them right in, and then engaged into the pipe there. So yeah, a lot of work, and I've peel plied it just because I can't look at raw fiberglass, but that's all going to get grinded off anyway at some stage after I demold it. But anyway, for now, done. The mounts down in the stern of the boat for the crane to lift this hull out are now glassed in with the gusset up in the bow on the port forward cabin. I've just prepared the chine here. It is a little bit further back than I would like because I'm worried about this strap here intersecting with the bulkhead and putting a bit of pressure on this central main bulkhead. But I will actually make sure that the spreader bar is right over the top of the bulkhead to avoid that angle that I am worried about. It'll also give me the opportunity to possibly suspend an extra strap off the bulkhead onto the spreader bar, just as a bit of a backup, just in case we end up with a break of one of these particular lifting mounts. But this is going to be glassed onto the chine here where I've just prepared gusset, and then the gusset will be glassed in as well, just like I did down the back. They're sacrificial, they're going to get cut off, but it's good that I didn't actually prepare too much shelving and robe in this area here, because if I had done that, I would have been a world of trouble. It's good to think things through, and I did actually think it through at a great detail. Last of the gussets. Man, been a bloody mission, isn't it, John?
Fantastic.
Absolute mission putting these in, but they're going to be strong enough. That was strong enough just with the glass, but taking Al's advice last week, gussets save lives.
Plain view.
Yeah, that's cool. So you can see I'm actually spreading the surface area as much as possible, sideways, lengthways, whatever, to get maximum hold on those gussets. But it's only got to hold it up for 5 or 10 minutes, eh mate?
As long as the crane holds it.
As long as the crane can hold it for 5 or 10 minutes, I'll be done. It's a long weekend here. We've got an extra day on the Monday. It's a Labor Day weekend, and I thought I'd have the weekend off. But someone had better ideas, didn't you? We are painting the house. Holy God, it's a big mother. It's got a lot of surfaces and a lot of different textures and colours. So it's a 3-day marathon. It's going to take us probably 3 weeks, I'd say. So there's going to be a little bit of a halt in boat building for this weekend, and no kayaking happening this weekend. Even though it's a long weekend, we just have to get it done because it's horribly faded up there, and it faces due west, so the sun's just beating it like an absolute mongrel. So Lexi's here, got the sight dog. Hey Lex. Hey, sight dog's ready for action. I'm ready for action. Johnny lent me his scaffold. What a winner Johnny is, because I've got an 8-metre high wall. I've got to get up there and get going. But yeah, let's get it painted, eh? I've decided that the second coat is probably the most soul-destroying part of painting a house. Total front's been done down the sides, and now I've just got to remove all the masking. But yeah, what a day, mate. It was 32 degrees here yesterday, and we had to stop as soon as the sun hit it. It was just drying on the rollers. But we've allocated 3 days. I'm a day and a half or a day and a bit into it, and I'm about 10% done. So Janet's down the side, she's stripe coating.